Hello there, Will here. It's been a while. It's been about more than a year since I posted my previous video. I thought I'd get to a DVD collection again. What a way to start it off. I just kicked the camera. This time I'm actually going to give a brief sort of review of the stories as I go through them, because that's much more interesting than what I did last year, which was just take them out and look at the cover, which wasn't so good. So let's have a talk about each one. I haven't seen them all yet though, bear in mind. So, without further ado, An Unearthly Child. The first part is really good, the rest isn't very good. The Daleks, a very imaginative story, and definitely something the Doctor Who needed, obviously. Without the Daleks, I think it's been said that Doctor Who might not have survived the 60s and then would have been forgotten today. So, we owe a lot to this story. That's not to say it's perfect, but it's still very good. Edge of Destruction. Yeah, this is nice little story, quite enclosed. This is actually pretty good for character development and stuff. Keys of Marinus. I really do like this story, it's great fun. It's a real adventure. Some of the scenes in episodes 5 and 6 are actually quite intense, with the sort of court stuff. Well, not so much intense, but exciting. The Aztecs. This is, again, a really good story. I wouldn't say a classic. Some people, say this is one of the best of all time. I don't quite think so. I preferred it on my first watch to my second watch. But it's still really good. Quite atmospheric, this one. So really good sound design and score. And yeah, really like that one. The Sensorites. This is, I'd say, probably the weakest of season 1. But I still think it's fairly good. They tried to do something different with the aliens. Making the aliens sort of not evil. Which I think I can appreciate that. And, I think there's enough going on in it. It's certainly episode 1's really good, if nothing else. Then we've got the Reign of Terror. Another less good story, in my opinion. The first part is absolutely brilliant, and the cliffhanger's actually quite intense. The rest of it, it's a bit of a sort of, quite a bit of filler. Sort of escape and recapture seems to be quite a main feature of this story. But I think it's good nonetheless, like the Sensorites. So season 1's actually a pretty good season, especially if you consider Marco Polo, which I love. Planet of Giants. Yeah, this one's good. I haven't really decided whether it's good or alright, but it's somewhere around there. It's a fun story, and it's certainly, the idea of turning it from a 4-parter into a 3-parter was a genius decision. Really good idea. Cutting it down to improve pacing. Right, then we've got my favourite Hartnell story, the Dalek Invasion of Earth. This is great, isn't it? Well, not everyone does think it's great, but I do. It's quite exciting in places, but really enjoyable stuff, and a good exit story for Susan, I think. Right, on to The Rescue. I'd say this story is fairly overrated. A lot of people, to be honest, if you enjoy it, that's fine. I don't particularly. I think it's alright. I don't think it's really good, like some people say. It didn't need to be great. It does what it needs to do, which is not that. It does what it needs to do, which is introduce Vicky, and it does that reasonably well. Next one is The Romans. This is really fun. This is a really fun story. I really enjoy this one. Just give it a watch. We get the Web Planet. Again, like the Reign of Terror and the Sensorites, it's actually got a pretty good first episode, but the rest of it really drags a lot. It's at least 2 episodes too long, if not 3. Then we've got the Space Museum. It's alright. I think the idea behind this was actually to sort of make a parody of a Doctor Who story. But some of the humour was sucked out of the original script. It still sort of works, but if you didn't know that, you'd just think it's incredibly mediocre. Then we've got the chase. This story slightly retreads the Keys of Marinus in places, but it's still overall good. The Daleks are perhaps portrayed not so well, but it's fun. It's a good exit for Ian and Barbara. Then we've got the Time Meddler. This is quite good as well. A lot of people really love this story. I think it's good, but I don't quite get where they're coming from. Although I really do appreciate it is the first pseudo-historical, and that's where you got alien activity in a past setting, which is pretty good. So I admire it, even if I don't think it's a classic. The Ark. It's been a while since I saw it. Don't know if it's all right or good, but it's got some interesting stuff going on. I like how it's a story of two halves, essentially. The first half with the humans in control, second half with the monoids in control. So that's fairly good. And the film sequences with the sort of zoo actually look quite good. Next we have the Gunfighters. I really like the Gunfighters. It's great fun, and I think this is an underrated gem. I don't know why this gets as much hate as it does. Maybe it doesn't get as much hate now as it used to, but honestly, it's just fun. Okay, just enjoy it. Anyway, moving on. The War Machines. Interesting ideas. Perhaps you could say it's ahead of its time with the whole sort of Wotan thing. Again, some people love it. I don't personally, but there you go. Then we have the 10th Planet. Obviously the first regeneration story. They're not going to get everything right, but they did it pretty well. One thing I will mention about the 10th Planet is that the Doctor and his companions are fairly passive protagonists in this story. They don't really do much for the plot to happen. It just sort of happens. Power of the Daleks. So it's quite hard to judge how good this story is, because it's obviously completely missing. I think it's at least a classic story. A brilliant post-regeneration story. Question is, has it been topped? Next up is the Underwater Menace. They couldn't be bothered to animate it. I don't know what happened with this. Bit sad, but there you go. Story itself, very silly, but I enjoy it nonetheless. Actually a real laugh, to be honest. If anything was ever so bad it's good, it's this story. The Moonbase, again, I think this is brilliant. I actually prefer this one to the Tomb of the Cybermen. Classic, Trout and Base Under Siege. That's my favourite Cyberman design as well. Yeah, and the voices are great as well. The Macroterra, the new 2019, I think, DVD release. Pretty good stuff. I haven't actually seen the animated version. This came out after I watched it. Not brilliant, but good. A fairly solid Base Under Siege Tomb of the Cybermen. Again, as I said, I prefer the Moon Base, but this is still very good. I prefer the first half to the second half, particularly episode 1, which is really well paced, really atmospheric. Let's talk about Warriors, the Ice Warriors. It drags a bit, probably would have been better off as a 4-parter. I still like it. The Enemy of the World, this is great. I really like this. I probably prefer the Web of Fear out of the two. There's always sort of a competition between these two. We've got the Web of Fear, another brilliant story. First story to feature the Brigadier, even though the episode where the Brigadier first appears is annoyingly missing. So I don't know what happened with that. I'm not going to pretend I know, but get it back, please. Can we have it back? Honestly, what a shame. Perhaps drags a bit towards the end, but really atmospheric stuff. Right, so the Dominators, haven't seen it. so I couldn't tell you what I thought of it. Mine, Robert? Yeah, it's good. Some people love this. I think it's good. I don't really know what else to say about this story because it's quite strange, but in a good way. They've got the invasion. This is brilliant. It's been a while since I last saw it, but I will be seeing it again soon. A lot of fun. Maybe a bit long. Then we've got the Crotons. This story is less good. I think it's actually quite mediocre. Not Robert Holmes' best script. Seeds of Death. I haven't seen this one, so I don't know. Don't know why I took it out, but there you go. And the War Games. It's been a while since I saw this one. A bit long. Could have been an 8-parter. Okay, when I say that, it probably couldn't, because obviously they have a certain number of episodes they have to work with.
Did I mention it's also really good?
Spearhead from Space. It's been quite a long time since I saw this story. Can't remember if I loved it or liked it. I'll have to go back and see. Silurians, again, it's been a while since I've seen this one, but I really loved it. Oh, and I much prefer this design to the not very good design in Series 5. These actually look like reptiles. The ones in Series 5 do not. Next, we have the Ambassador's Death. Haven't seen this one, so I don't know. Inferno, this is absolutely fantastic. Incredibly atmospheric. Maybe one part too long. As I said, they didn't really have much of a choice. What a story. One of my absolute favourites. Terror of the Autons. It's been quite a long time since I last watched it. I thought it was good. That's all I can really say about it for the moment. I've got The Mind of Evil, another pretty good one. I like this one. All written by the same writer who wrote Inferno, but not really as good as Inferno. Drags a bit, but some good ideas. The stuff with the missile is quite exciting. Haven't seen The Claws of Axos. Colony in Space, haven't seen this one either. Then you got The Demons, pretty good. Next we have Day of the Daleks. This one's a really ahead of its time, sort of timey-wimey plot to it. Definitely interesting stuff. The special edition really sort of does it proud, if that's an actual phrase. We've got Curse of Peladon. This is a pretty good story as well. Quite an interesting sort of whodunit. It has a sort of historical aesthetic to it, even though it's set on an alien world. So, then we've got the Sea Devils. The soundtrack on this, half of it is absolutely sublime. The other half, which is the beeping noises or whatever, I don't know what they were thinking. Really isn't very nice to listen to. The story itself is actually pretty good as well, so yeah, I enjoy this. Then we got The Mutants and The Time Monster. I haven't seen either of these two stories. We've got The Three Doctors. This is good. Carnival of Monsters. I think this is a bit overrated. It's good. I don't think it's one of the best of all time. Quite a strange story. Good stuff nonetheless. We've got Frontier in Space. I really like this story. Again, it's been a while since I last saw it, but I think it's brilliant. Great sort of space opera. Very, very grand scope. Lots of locations. I love the model work as well. So let's move down the shelf. We've got Planet of the Daleks. Some people don't like this story for how the Daleks are characterised, and I get that. But the way I enjoy this story is it's just really fun to watch. The Green Death, I don't absolutely love it, but I still quite like it. Excellent departure scene, and I suppose great departure story overall for Joe, which is more than I can say for Inferno. As much as I love Inferno, doesn't exactly give much of a goodbye scene for Liz. They've got Time Warrior. It's been a while since I saw this. I think it's pretty good. The only Pertwee historical, which is quite interesting. Next we have Invasion of the Dinosaurs. I haven't seen this one, so I don't know. Death to the Daleks. This is overrated, I think. If people complain about how the Daleks are portrayed in Planet of the Daleks, then they should definitely complain how they're portrayed in this story. In this story, the Daleks have lost all their menace. Yeah, not great. I do quite like the Exelon City scenes though, the sort of puzzles and stuff. That's quite fun. So alright, certainly not a great story. Monster of Peladon, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. And then we got Planet of the Spiders. It's been quite a while since I saw this. Don't know if I like it quite a bit, or I just sort of like it. Then we got Robot. Yeah, it's good. Very sort of Pertwee-esque. What is quite interesting is that the Fourth Doctor recovers from post-regeneration stuff quite quickly in this story. So that's interesting. We've got The Ark in Space next. I don't think it's a classic. I still think it's very good. Overrated, basically. Is what I'm trying to say. And then we go to the Sontaran Experiment. Of course, the interesting thing about season 12 of it is it's basically a long journey with and without the TARDIS, and all the stories linked together quite nicely. So we go via Transmat Beacon from the Ark in Space to the Sontaran Experiment. This is a sort of good little two-parter. You could say it's part of the same story with the Ark in Space, except obviously it isn't. But this sort of forms a very loose six-parter. Not amazing, but it doesn't have to be. Then we've got Genesis of the Daleks. I don't think I could say anything that hasn't been said about this story already, but wow. What a story. My favourite story since Inferno. There's a reason why this story is as loved as it is. Some people say it's overrated. I don't think so. Maybe not the best story of all time. I agree, but certainly still one of the best. But hey, I'm not too bothered. On to Revenge of the Cybermen. Yeah, this one isn't so good. I mean, it's alright, but there's lots of boring alien politics with these lads here. The Cybermen are just really not what they were. They barely even have any effects with their voice. Most of the time it just sounds like the actors are speaking out of the plastic helmets. But I think there's an ever so slightly, they've added something electronic to it. Also, the score in this story, interestingly, is a mix between a composer, the same composer who made the music for Death to the Daleks, which also isn't great music. Well, it's decent music, but it doesn't work for the story. Same here. Peter Howell was involved, and he sort of scored it as well, which is very strange because you get two very contrasting types of music for this story. Well, what does save it from being mediocre is the chemistry between, the Fourth Doctor, Harry Sullivan, and Sarah Jane, but not the best way to end season 12. And it wasn't actually intended to end season 12. Terror of the Zygons was, but they moved it because of scheduling and the recording blocks, because season 13 was broadcast not that long after season 12 ended, so, Terror of the Zygons. This is quite a good story, lots of locations in this one. Now, Planet of Evil. This one is another good one, quite atmospheric. This story is basically famous for the jungle set, which is really good. Talking of things that are really good, this is really good. Android Invasion now. This one isn't so good. It drags for me quite a bit, but there are some good ideas in there. Next we've got The Brain of Morbius. This one's pretty good as well. Morbius is a great villain. Drags a little bit in places. Then we've got The Seeds of Doom. This is my favourite story of season 13. Really big scope because we've got Antarctic and we've got England, and the Krynoids are a great villain. It does lose pace a bit towards the end, but other than that, a very good story. Mask of Mandragora. Yeah, this one's a pretty good sort of period piece. The location filming works really well. Obviously, they didn't film in Italy, but it's very authentic, this one. Next up, we got The Hand of Fear. This one, to be honest, I don't like it that much. The first two episodes, first half, actually pretty good stuff and gets exciting at times, but the second half really isn't so good. Episode 3 is fairly dull, and then episode 4 just looks cheap, really. Not a very good exit story for Sarah Jane either, in terms of her actual exit. I suppose her leaving scene was good, but it could have been done better, basically. And then we got Deadly Assassin, which is brilliant. Got the Crispy Master. Great stuff. What can I say? Then we've got The Face of the Evil. This is a pretty good story.
I prefer the first half to the second half.
The Robots of Death. This is one of my all-time favourites, actually. It's a fantastic sort of whodunit based Under Siege. Those robots are absolutely brilliant. The setting is, inspired. Absolutely fantastic. And we've got another great story as well, The Talents of Wayne Cheyenne. This is just a great watch. Looks great as well, in terms of, you know, the setting and the direction and all that. Great stuff. Talking of great stuff, Horror of Fang Rock, a really atmospheric, sort of claustrophobic story. The only Rutan story in all of Doctor Who, which is a real shame. We need to see the Rutans again. Okay, preferably battling the Sontarans. Chris Chibnall, make it happen. It's got the Invisible Enemy. This one isn't so good. It's alright. What's quite interesting about this story is it's got loads and loads of different locations, which do help. But the first half I think is definitely better than the second half. We've got Image of the Fendel. This one's pretty good actually. Quite atmospheric stuff. Good villains. Good score. I wouldn't call it scary, but it's probably scary for its time or something. The Sunmakers. This is good. Not perhaps great. I wanted to really love this story, but unfortunately I didn't. I still like it though. And here we get to a controversial bit. We get to Underworld. A lot of people hate this story. To be honest, I don't think it's that bad. The story itself is alright. It's just maybe some of the effects that let it down a bit. Good music actually in this one. Then we get The Invasion of Time. This one's an interesting one, because I think the first 3 episodes are probably quite good, especially the first 2. But then you get it really starts to drag later on, and they clearly were running out of money. What I will say, it's not a good exit for Leela. However, overall, I think there's enough going on in there for me to say it's good. I got the Ribos Operation. I watched this very recently. I preferred it on first watch. I still think it's a good story though. Quite entertaining in places. Got the Pirate Planet. I think it's a bit overrated. It's good and it's got lots of interesting ideas, but whether it makes a cohesive whole. Stars of Blood. This one's very overrated.
So on a second watch, this story improved me a bit. Not hugely, but a bit. I still think the first half is quite a bit better than the second half, and some of the stuff in hyperspace gets a bit dull in places, but still good overall. Got the Android of Tara. This one's great fun. Power of Kroll. This one's alright. Quite an interesting sort of set piece of the largest villain ever. Interesting setting of this Marsh planet. Then we get to the Armageddon Factor. This one is pretty good, I thought. Maybe even brilliant. Basically, this story moves every 2 episodes, and there's lots of sort of mystery going on, and I just really enjoy it. It's a real adventure. Got Destiny of the Daleks. This one I'm really not so keen on. The Daleks are a joke in this story. You know, they were a joke in Death to the Daleks, and they're a joke in this one. It looks cheap. Even Terry Nation even forgets the Daleks aren't robots. I'm not sure what was going on there. So not a great start. Then we've got City of Death. This one is obviously brilliant. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I'm looking forward to revisiting it. It's just great. Just a fun story, brimming with imagination. Then we got these 3. Creature from the Pit, Nightmare of Eden, and The Horns of Nymon. I haven't seen any of them yet. I haven't heard particularly good things about any of them either. Although I have seen a clip from Horns of Nymon that seemed pretty funny. So maybe that's a funny story, I don't know. I don't want to overhype it either. Anyway, I've got Sharda here. I've also got Sharda here. This is the version I've watched, but I prefer this cover. I'll pop this back then. Sharda's great. Lots of interesting ideas, lots of great locations, and I really wish it was finished. And if it was finished, who knows, maybe it would even be a 10 out of 10. It's quite hard to tell with animated stories whether I think they're classics or greatest of all time. But I really, really do like Sharda. So next up, got the Leisure Hive. A lot of people hate this. I don't. I think it's alright. It's perfectly serviceable. Not much else can really say about it, really. I can see why some people think it's dull, but it's not bad, you know.
They got Meglos, also a story that people seem to love to hate. I quite like it, actually. I think it's a fun story. And you see people complaining all the time about how season 18 is too serious and there aren't enough jokes, and then they go and hate on Meglos. It's not great, but it's fun. Full circle. I think this one's a tad overrated, but I still think it's good. A solid introduction to Adric. Then we have State of Decay. State of Decay is really good, very atmospheric, brilliant score by Paddy Kingston. By the way, can I just mention some of the music in season 18? Most of the music in season 18 is outstanding. I love the 80s sort of electronic scores. Don't get me wrong, Dudley Simpson was good, but Radiophonic Workshop, they worked wonders most of the time. There are some exceptions, and I'll get to them. But State of Decay, great stuff. Warrior's Gate, also great stuff. This is sort of weird in a cool way, and I didn't like it on first watch because I didn't really get it. But on rewatches, I've sort of worked it out for the most part. I don't think I've worked it out fully. I don't think anyone's worked it out fully. But maybe that's part of the charm of it. It just works, you know. Even though it was a troubled production, it came together in all the right ways, and it works really well for the sort of end of the E-Space trilogy. Then you've got The Keeper of Traken. This story is also, I think this is very good, not quite so good as those two, but still very good nonetheless. What I really like is how this sort of builds up to Legopolis and sort of sets it up. In that respect, while it's not the greatest pre-regeneration story, it's sort of, I think of it as the exemplar pre-regeneration story. It sets up what happens in Legopolis, and it builds up to it, which I really like. Season 18, for me, has a great sort of pace to it, a sort of momentum to it. Anyway, we've got Legopolis. This one's pretty good as well. The thing about Legopolis, I think of it as a sandwich. I really like the first episode and bits of the second episode on Earth. The final episode is brilliant, even more brilliant with the sort of Blu-ray effects. In the middle, the scenes on Legopolis, yeah, they are dull. I will not argue with that. They are dull. There are ways they could have made it better, but I still think it's a very good story. Not as good as it should have been, but still very good. Now we got Castrovalva. Here, Castrovalva's a good story as well. Not quite so good as Keeper of Traken or Legopolis, but still good. Pretty good post-regeneration story. It really explores how regeneration can affect the Doctor and stuff, and lots of interesting ideas as well. Forward to Doomsday. This one, it's an intelligent script, but it's dull. There's too much talking and not much else. So I'd say it's pretty mediocre in that respect. The sets are good though, good production values, but not that much else. Actually, it does give some decent character moments though, I will say, but not particularly fun to watch. Kinder, to be honest, I don't really get the hype around Kinder. Sure, it's wacky, sort of like Warrior's Gate, but it doesn't sort of have, I don't really know. I wish I did love Kinder. It's still good. Maybe I'm missing something, I don't know. Anyway, on to The Visitation. This one's good as well. Some people love it. Some people sort of overlook it a bit. I think it's a fairly solid historical. The Pteroleptals are pretty good villains, I think. We've got the well, not the Black Orchid. We've got Black Orchid. I think this is a decent sort of whodunit thing. That obviously it could have been better, but it's fairly decent two-parter. We've got Earthshock, a great departure for Adric, even though Adric wasn't the best of characters. I will mention Adric's better in season 18 than he was in season 19, but he still didn't have that much of a character. Anyway, Earthshock, yeah, great stuff. Great Sidemen. Should have been the finale of season 19, but instead, instead, we get this. Okay, what the hell? So basically, they just sort of ignore what happened in Earthshock. They in the first couple seconds of the story, they say, "Oh, we wouldn't want us to mourn him too much." I thought, the new era that JNT had ushered in was all about drama and stuff. But then they just sort of forget about it. And then Time Flight itself, the first episode was alright. Can't say the same for the next three. Some people say Time Flight is a good story that was let down by budget. I think, to be honest, it is a bad story that was badly produced. It's honestly a bit of an embarrassment, and it's just not fun to watch at all. This was an ordeal. Okay, and the cover's also bad. Just look at that cover. Okay, I think I've gone through this in last year's collection of review. Just look at this cover. Dan Budden, where is he? Okay, well, he's on the back somewhere, but what the hell? Honestly, if you want my thoughts quickly, it's bad. Not awful, but bad. Anyway, so it brings season 19 to a bit of a not so good end. We've got Arc of Infinity. This is alright. It's not awful. Obviously the Time Lords aren't particularly well portrayed, but they weren't very good in the Invasion of Time either. It was interesting having Omega back. Omega's new costume is bad. Or at least, okay, it looks interesting. It's not badly designed. It's just not as good as the one in the Three Doctors. I don't know why they changed it, really. Anyway, got Snake Dance. This is alright. I was hoping it would have been better, to be honest. A bit of a disappointment. It's not bad. Then we get to my favourite part of season 20. The Black Guardian trilogy, kicking off with Mordor Undead. This is a great sort of timey-wimey story before timey-wimey stories were a thing. Good instruction for Turlo, great score by Paddy Kingsland, just great stuff really. Not a classic, but still really good. Terminus, a lot of people hate Terminus, I don't. I think it's a good story let down by the way it was produced, basically, in a nutshell. Then we got Enlightenment, one of my favourites, really atmospheric, really interesting stuff. Although, yes, not the most climactic battle with the Black Guardian. And if it was more climactic, yes, it would be one of my favourites of all time. But still, there's enough atmosphere there, there's enough sort of interesting characters there. I really love the setting of the sort of sailing ships in space. It's fantastic imagery. I really like Enlightenment. And then we've got the King's Demons. This is alright, a decent two-parter. There's not much else I can really say about it, to be honest. The interesting thing is, it wasn't meant to be Season 20's finale. The finale was meant to be Resurrection of the Daleks, but due to industrial action, that was postponed. I think of the finale as the Five Doctors. I think of that just as much part of Season 20 as everything else in Season 20. And it works as the final story for me. I think it's pretty good. I probably prefer it to the Three Doctors. Fun stuff. Obviously it's a shame we couldn't have Tom Baker, but it works nonetheless. A great celebration. And move over to Season 21. Starting off with Warriors of the Deep. This is a fairly average to mediocre script that's let down by not particularly good production values. So overall it's pretty mediocre, to be honest. I wouldn't say bad, but it's certainly dull. If they just turned the lighting down a tad, it could have been slightly better to watch. But no, this is the 80s when they didn't know how to light things properly. So that was a shame. But still not awful, but still not great, not good either. Then we got The Awakening. This is good. Probably the best of the sort of Davison two-parters. Not amazing, but good, yeah. I think of Season 21 as a sort of sandwich. The bread either side really isn't very good, but the filling, the 5 stories in the middle, they're really, quite good. We've then got Frontios. A lot of people love Frontios. I don't so much. To be honest, it drags for me, but it's still good. And the Tractators are great villains. And it was a shame we didn't get to see them again. Then we've got Resurrection of the Daleks. This story is... okay, it's a mess, right? I'm not going to deny that. The plot is a mess, but it's fun to watch. And the Daleks are really well portrayed. So, I just like it anyway. It's a good mess. Planet of Fire. This is pretty good as well. The filming on Lanzarote really makes this seem quite authentic. The script is alright, but it looks really good, and it's quite atmospheric as well, and really well directed actually. It's a good watch. And this story, perhaps more than any other, it just feels like the cast was having fun. We've got Kate Androzani. This is one of my favourites of all time, and that's probably not a surprise. It's most people's one of their favourites. Just everything about this story works, you know. Roger Lim is back, and better than before, in terms of the music. It looks really good, and it's directed fantastically by Graham Harper. Everybody dies, basically, but it's better, but in a more tasteful way than Resurrection of the Daleks. Nobody's good in this story, and that I love. A fantastic regeneration story, probably the best regeneration story ever. Then we get to the Twin Dilemma, which for some reason the production team decided, oh yeah, let's have a post-regeneration story as the finale. Why? Why couldn't you just end it with the Caves of Androzani, put a story in the middle there so that we have more sort of Five and Perry, because we barely get Five and Perry. Have another story there, say maybe Song of a Space Whale, because that was touted quite a lot but never actually made. Have that in there, and then end the season with Caves, and season 21 would be so much better. But no. Instead they decide to do the first story of the next Doctor at the end. And not only that, but it's not a good story either. It's a fairly average script to start with. And then when you add on top of that, not very good production values. And then you also add the Sixth Doctor's awful characterisation in this story, and you just get a bad story. I find it slightly more enjoyable than Time Flight, but that's no compliment. Right, next up we have Attack of the Cybermen. This is good. There isn't much plot, I'm going to be honest. And the first half is definitely better than the second half, but it's alright. It's a fairly workable opener, if a bit continuity heavy. And to be honest, Doctor Who's been continuity heavy at this point since the start of season 21. Then we've got Vengeance on Varos. This is very good, I think. Not a classic, but still very good. Quite sort of claustrophobic and atmospheric. Then we've got Mark of the Rani. I can't really decide if this is average or good. Certainly some quite good music in it. Far from bad, anyway. Then we've got the Two Doctors. Oh, also, the Rani's a pretty good villain. She's better in this than she is in Time and the Rani, I'd say. Then we've got the Two Doctors. Like Attack of the Cybermen, and in fact more so, this doesn't really have a plot. It's more about sort of set pieces. And it's a shame, really, because you think this story is going to go in one direction and then it doesn't. And then you think it's going to go in another direction and then it doesn't. It just sort of plods along. However, like Resurrection of the Daleks, despite that I still enjoy it. Probably because of the setting. It's very atmospheric, there's great music, and it's good to see the Sontarans back. Then we've got Time Lash. This is not so good. It's very garish and just a bit of a mess, to be honest. It's just, well, not so much of a mess, it's just sort of dull. There isn't much else to it, really. Revelation of the Daleks is really dark. It's not a mess, unlike Resurrection of the Daleks. So not only is it fun to watch, it also has a good plot. Some people don't like how the first part is the Doctor and Perry just walking around doing not much, but things are happening. Great music by Roger Lim. Really atmospheric stuff. Davros at his absolute peak. What's not to love, basically? Of course, things changed somewhat in 1985 to 1986, and Trial of the Time Lord was born. I'm going to talk about each individual segment first. So, let's take Mind Warp. I thought it was fairly average, to be honest. It wasn't bad, but it was alright. Mind Warp. Hang on. Sorry. Mysterious Planet. Did I say Mind Warp? I meant Mysterious Planet. Then we got Mind Warp. It starts off quite well, but then it sort of drags and there's too much talking, not much else happening. So it's alright. And then we got Terror of the Vervoids. This one's my favourite segment of Trial. It's not great, but I think it's good. It's sort of quite reminiscent of the Robots of Death in some ways, and that you've sort of got a crew on a sort of I think that was really well explained, I think. Obviously it's nowhere near as good as Robots of Death. Mel's not a good companion, but still, doesn't bring it down too much. Some exciting moments. I do like it. It gets quite exciting as they're sort of falling into the black hole. And then we get the Ultimate Foe. It's good, but it's not the kind of conclusion you'd expect. The way the Doctor beat the Valiard, for me, is just so convenient and wasn't particularly the kind of payoff I would like. And it's a shame that they sort of undo Perry's death as well. Overall, not particularly impressive. It was a shame. I think they just should have stuck with some of the scripts they already had for season 23. You know, like the Nightmare Fairy, like Mission to Magnus, Yellow Fever and How to Cure It, Hollows of Time. I think if they did those 4 stories, perhaps cut down a bit because they didn't have as many episodes, it might have been better. But they went with this. Over ambitious, to be honest. And this is one of my least favourite seasons. In terms of a story, it's alright, but as a season, it's a bit lacklustre. It takes itself too seriously for the sort of quality of writing and production that is there. They did obviously, I'm not going to deny they did the best with what they could, but budgets were low in these times. Then we get to season 24. A lot of people hate this season, and I'm not going to talk too much in terms of seasons, but the stories in this are a bit of a breath of fresh air, except not Time of the Rani, because this is pretty dull. But the rest, Paradise Towers, I really like. It's a lot of fun. I didn't like it on first watch, but I liked it much more on second watch. Delta and the Bannerman, particularly the first episode. I really loved the first episode, actually. The rest isn't so good, but it's still a fun story. A lot of people hate Delta and the Bannerman, and I don't know why, but they do, apparently. So there you go. And then we've got Dragonfire, which is also pretty good. Not great, but good. Remembrance of the Daleks. A lot of people love this, and I love it too. Well, I don't love it. I quite like it. It's really well paced. A lot of action in this story. A lot of explosions as well. I don't love it as much as some people do, but it's still very, very good. Got Happiness Patrol. This is good as well. Not great, but good. Bit silly in places, but what the hell. Then you got Silver Nemesis. This one isn't so good. In places, this actually feels like you're watching a fan film. It just looks a bit cheap. It's kind of not particularly well directed. It's a bit of a clunky script. It's got all the hallmarks of a fan film, and it honestly feels like I'm watching a fan film when I watch Silver Nemesis. It's not awful. It's not even bad, but it's just a bit. Yeah. And we've got Greatest Show in the Galaxy. This I really, really like. Great stuff, really, with the music and the setting. A very, very good atmosphere, I think. Then we get Battlefield. This is good. It's a decent series opener. Nice to see the Brigadier back. Obviously not great, but it's good enough. Then we got Ghost Light. This one's a bit weird. I think it works. It sort of makes sense on second watch. I don't love it as much as some people do, but it's still a good story. Should have been a 4-parter. Battlefield could have been 3 parts. This could be 4 parts, and then it would have made more sense. But whatever. Then we got The Curse of Fenric, signed by Sylvester McCoy. This is my favourite McCoy story. Really sort of foreboding, 7th Doctor at peak manipulations of scheming and all that. A real highlight, I think. Then we've got Survival, which is pretty good as well, I think. I'm kind of running out of things to say, to be honest. It works to round off classic series. Nice to see the Master back, actually. They got the TV movie. It's been a while since I saw this, but it's alright. I suppose it's a fun watch. New series box sets, obviously, because these are box sets. I'm not going to talk about each individual story. I think we could be here forever. Obviously, there aren't as many new stories as there are classic stories, but it's not sort of the same. I can't just pull out a story and talk about it. I'm just going to give a quick opinion on the series, I suppose. Series 1, definitely my favourite. Great stuff. Series 2, also pretty good. Not so good, but still good. Probably the weakest Tennant series. Then we've got Series 3. This is pretty good. Series 4. This is great. I really love Series 4. On the sort of same tier as Series 1. Great stuff. The specials. I mean, the Waters of Mars is fantastic. Don't know about the End of Time. I honestly actually don't know about the End of Time. I haven't made up my mind about that story at all. But there you go. Series 5. To be honest, I don't think it's as good as a lot of people say. It's still good, but not great. Series 6, a bit mixed. First half much better than the second half. We got Series 7, yeah, not so good. Oh, by the way, can I just say how lucky I am to have all these sort of first editions, because I got them years ago. But there you go. Series 7, yeah, not so good. Fairly average. And then we got these 2 Day of the Doctor and Time of the Doctor. It's a shame that sort of consistency with box sets stopped here. That really annoys me. Please, Chris Chibnall, or BBC Studios, please make the box set design for the Chibnall era nice and consistent again. Can we make that happen? Thank you. Anyway, yeah, they're right. Well, they're good actually. Series 8, not so good, I think. It's better than Series 7 though. Series 9, pretty good actually, I think. Series 10, alright. Once Upon a Time, probably shouldn't have happened, but it's still alright. And then we've got Series 11, which is not so good. I think it's probably down there with Series 7, Season 23, and Season 19 as one of my least favourite seasons, but there you go. Oh, but still, it looks good. I mean, it's produced really well. And it has potential. I can see potential for Series 12, which I'm looking forward to, obviously. And Resolution, which I think is a bit overrated, but it's still alright. I suppose it's a bit of fun. So now we're going to move over to something else. I just wanted to show you my Blu-ray sort of the collection. I have Season 18, and I have... Excuse me. Focus on it, please. No. On there, thank you. And I have Season 19. These are fantastic box sets. They're great. Like a lot of people, I missed out on Season 12. Mainly because I was hesitant about buying it, but I know some people... But I don't know if they ran out of copies by then. I don't know. Just, please, BBC. So many of us have missed out on Season 12, and I cannot put up with having a Season 12 shaped hole in my, the collection, forever. Please re-release Season 12, okay? The same version, please. Thank you. Dear BBC Studios, make it happen. Let's get Season 12 back on the shelves. Quick update, everyone. I now have Season 10 on Blu-ray, so that's pretty cool. Miscellaneous DVDs, Lost in Time, K9 and Company, which I haven't watched yet, and the documentary More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS, as well as the Dalek collection. That's got the 60s films in, and the old version of Resurrection of the Daleks, and also a Stray reprint of Series 7. So, that's the DVD collection. I hope you enjoyed the video. Big Finish collection should be up next. Bye for now.